Have you ever felt like you notice things no one else seems to see? Like you walk into a room and your spirit reacts before your mind understands why? Like you sense tension behind someone's smile, heaviness behind someone's silence, danger behind someone's charm? Most people call it intuition, but what you carry is something far deeper. It is spiritual sensitivity, a gift that feels less like a blessing and more like a burden when you don't know why God allowed you to see what others cannot. And here's the truth no one tells you. Seeing the invisible comes with a cost in your emotions, your relationships, your peace, and sometimes even your sleep. Because once God opens your eyes, you can never unsee what He shows you. Once He awakens your discernment, you can never go back to being blind. Think about it. How many times have you felt something was wrong before anything happened? How many times did your spirit pick up on deception when everyone else thought you were overreacting? How many times did you walk away from someone and later realize God was protecting you from a disaster your heart could not yet recognize? People around you may not understand it. Some may call you sensitive, some may call you dramatic, some may even call you suspicious. But deep inside you know the truth. God has shown you too much for you to live like everyone else. If you've ever felt the weight of perceiving what others overlook, this message is for you. Because this ability is not random, it is not accidental, and it is not madness, it is calling. Before we go deeper, tell us in the comments where you're watching from. We love knowing how far this message is reaching. When God gives you the ability to see what others overlook, He is not trying to make your life harder. He is preparing you for a level of spiritual maturity that most people never reach. Discernment is not a decoration, it is a defense. It is a shield placed inside your spirit long before your mind can comprehend the danger around you. And the deeper the calling on your life, the sharper this inner warning system becomes. But with that sensitivity comes a weight. Because God does not sharpen your spiritual sight for entertainment. He sharpens it for protection. He sharpens it for assignment. He sharpens it so you won't be deceived, distracted, or destroyed by things that appear harmless on the surface. The enemy hides in subtlety, not spectacle, and those God calls must be trained to see in the dark. This is why you feel things before others do. This is why you sense shifts without explanation. This is why your spirit becomes restless around certain people, even when nothing seems wrong. Your discernment is God speaking before danger appears. It is God exposing what your emotions want to trust. It is God guiding you away from connections that would drain you or derail your purpose. But here's the part most believers miss. Seeing spiritually is not only about identifying what is wrong, it is about surviving what is revealed. Spiritual sight without spiritual stability becomes torment. That is why God must teach you not only to see, but to carry what you see. In this message, we will go deeper into the spiritual cost of perception. Not to frighten you, but to free you. Because once you understand why God made you this way, the weight becomes purpose instead of punishment. When God awakens your spiritual sight, the first thing He does is disrupt your comfort. You begin to realize that you don't perceive the world the way others do. You don't walk through life blind to the spiritual atmosphere around you. You don't ignore the tension behind someone's tone or the heaviness inside a room. You don't simply listen to words, you hear spirit. You don't just see actions, you discern intention. And while this ability seems supernatural from the outside, it often feels heavy on the inside. Because the truth is, seeing is not always comforting. Sometimes it is confronting. And this is where the true cost begins. Most people move through life trusting appearances. They take people at face value. They assume what is visible is what is true. But you were never built that way. Your spirit reacts before your logic does. Something inside you warns you. Something inside you senses a shift. Something inside you whispers, "Pay attention." And the frustrating part is that you can never fully explain why. You can't prove what you feel. You can't articulate what you sense. You just know. This knowing is not learned. It is given. It is a mark placed on those God chooses to guard, guide, intercede, or carry a deeper assignment. But like every gift from heaven, discernment comes with responsibility. And responsibility always comes with weight. You begin to see the spiritual condition of people long before you see their personality. You detect their pain before they confess it. You sense their intentions before they reveal them. This sensitivity makes you compassionate, but it also makes you cautious. Because while everyone else assumes the best, you are forced to confront what is beneath the surface. And not everything beneath the surface is beautiful. You can meet someone who is smiling, but your spirit feels unrest. You can sense attachment forming, but something in you feels danger. You can walk into a conversation and suddenly feel drained, even though nothing offensive was said. This is because your spirit is responding to what their spirit carries. Most people only react to what is visible, but you are reacting to what is hidden. And this is where the loneliness begins. Discernment isolates, not because you choose isolation, but because clarity separates you. When you see what others ignore, you cannot live like others live. You cannot entertain what others entertain. You cannot connect with people simply because they are available. Your spirit becomes selective, not because you are judgmental, but because you are spiritually awake. The more God expands your sight, the more you notice the difference between emotional connection and spiritual alignment. Emotional connection feels good, but spiritual alignment feels right. Emotional connection feeds the moment, but spiritual alignment feeds your destiny. Emotional connection attracts the soul, but spiritual alignment protects the purpose. And as you grow, you begin to feel the tension between what your flesh wants and what your spirit refuses to accept. This tension is a sign that God is guarding your path. He is preventing you from tying your life to people who would sabotage your calling, people who drain you instead of uplift you, people who love your presence but don't honor your purpose, people who enjoy your company but can't handle your anointing, people who look good but don't carry good fruit. Most people can't see these things. They only learn through pain. But God gave you discernment so you could learn through revelation. That is the difference between those who are spiritually awake and those who are simply emotionally driven. Discernment is God's way of sparing you from wounds you never needed to experience. It is His way of saying, I love you too much to let you walk into what I already see will break you. But this protection often feels like conflict, because your emotions say, why not? While your spirit says, walk away. Your mind says, there's nothing wrong, while your spirit says, there's something you can't see. And to obey God, you must learn to trust that inner warning even when it doesn't make sense, even when there is no evidence, even when others call you dramatic, paranoid, or difficult. Obedience to discernment is one of the most difficult forms of obedience, because God doesn't always show you the danger. He simply alerts you to it. He doesn't always expose what He is protecting you from. He simply redirects you before the damage appears. And you must learn to thank Him for the doors He closes, even when you don't understand why. Seeing what others cannot also means you feel deeply. You carry emotions that don't belong to you. You carry grief that enters a room. You sense tension without hearing a word. Your spirit picks up the weight of someone else's heart. You feel situations shifting without any visible signs. Some call it empathy, but it is much more than that. It is a spiritual radar that God placed inside you. This is why certain environments drain you, why certain conversations disturb you, why certain friendships suffocate you. Your sensitivity reveals what your eyes cannot. And as you grow, you begin to realize that your discomfort is a message. God speaks through discomfort. When you don't belong somewhere anymore, your spirit will not rest there. When someone is not right for you, your peace will leave. When a situation is spiritually unhealthy, your inner man will react. This is why peace is not just an emotion, it is God's voice. When He removes peace, He is guiding you. When He gives peace, He is approving you. Discernment without peace becomes torment. Discernment with peace becomes direction. Another cost of seeing spiritually is the burden of knowing what others are not ready to accept. You may see a person's true intentions long before they reveal themselves. You may sense the collapse of a situation long before anyone else notices the cracks. You may discern that a relationship is unhealthy while everyone else celebrates it. You may feel the spiritual warfare behind someone's behavior while others only see their personality. And because of this, you often find yourself in the uncomfortable position of carrying truth silently. Discernment will teach you when to speak and when to stay silent, because revelation without timing becomes conflict. There are things God shows you for prayer, not for conversation. There are warnings he gives you for your protection, not for public discussion. There are people he reveals so you can intercede for them, not expose them. Discernment is not a tool for judgment. It is a weapon for protection. It is a compass for direction. It is a whisper from heaven saying, "Stay awake." One of the hardest parts of this calling is realizing that not everyone grows at the same pace. Not everyone sees what you see. Not everyone hears what you hear. Not everyone feels what you feel. And you cannot force revelation. You cannot drag someone into a level of spiritual awareness they are not willing to enter. You cannot awaken someone whose spirit prefers comfort over clarity. Discernment will cost you the need to be understood. You will learn to be okay with seeing quietly. You will learn to be okay with stepping back silently. You will learn to be okay with obeying God, even when others disagree. You will learn to be okay with being misunderstood. Obedience to God must matter more than the approval of people. And as you mature, you begin to realize that the gift of seeing spiritually is not meant to make you suspicious. It is meant to make you surrendered. God doesn't show you things so you can fear them. He shows you things so you can pray over them, avoid them, or prepare for them. Revelation is not meant to create anxiety. It is meant to create accuracy. But here is another hidden truth. The enemy targets those who see, because a believer with discernment cannot be easily deceived. A believer with spiritual sensitivity cannot be manipulated. A believer who sees in the Spirit becomes a threat to darkness. You can sense danger before it arrives. You can feel demonic presence even when it hides behind kindness. You can discern spiritual assignments against your life before they manifest. You can see the trap long before the enemy can lure you into it. This is why your battles feel heavier than others. This is why your warfare intensifies without warning. This is why you feel attacked in your thoughts, your emotions, your relationships, and your rest. The enemy cannot blind you, so he tries to exhaust you. If he cannot deceive you, he tries to overwhelm you. If he cannot infiltrate your life, he tries to isolate your heart. But here is what hell fears the most: a believer who sees and still chooses peace. A believer who sees and still walks in obedience. A believer who sees and still trusts God's timing. A believer who sees and refuses to bow to fear, because discernment without fear becomes authority. And authority is what the enemy hates. This entire season is forming something powerful in you. God is not giving you sight just to reveal danger. He is giving you sight to reveal your identity. He is showing you that you are set apart, that your sensitivity is not weakness, that your perception is not accident, that your awareness is not overthinking. You are spiritually awake in a world that prefers to sleep. And the cost is high, but so is the calling. When God opens your eyes to see the invisible, the next cost you begin to face is the weight of responsibility. Because spiritual sight is not passive. It is not a quiet observation. It becomes a call to intercede, a call to protect, a call to obey God long before others understand why. Seeing spiritually forces you into maturity. It requires a depth of character, patience, restraint, and awareness that others may never have to develop. And this responsibility can feel overwhelming at times, especially when you sense things others dismiss. You begin to realize that you can no longer respond the way you used to. You cannot cling to temporary emotions when your spirit is reading eternal consequences. You cannot remain casual about connections that your spirit warns you against. You cannot entertain relationships that drain your discernment. You cannot stay in environments where your peace is constantly violated. Your sensitivity demands discipline, and discipline demands separation. This separation often shows up in subtle ways. Conversations that once felt normal now feel spiritually heavy. Places that once felt harmless now feel contaminated. People you once trusted now carry an atmosphere your spirit cannot ignore. The shift is not external, it is internal. God changed your capacity. What you allow now is different because who you are becoming is different. You are not who you used to be. That inner shift pulls you away from familiar patterns. You start losing appetite for gossip, superficial connections, worldly entertainment, chaotic environments, and relationships that distract you spiritually. Not because you are trying to be holy, but because your spirit refuses to feed on what weakens it. And while this awakening is beautiful, it also creates tension. You feel disconnected from the things that once comforted you. You outgrow rooms you once desired. You no longer fit inside the version of yourself that others still remember. This misalignment becomes painfully clear when you try to explain your perceptions to people who aren't spiritually awake. They think you are imagining things. They think you are reading too deeply into situations. They dismiss what you feel because they can't feel it. And in those moments, you confront a truth you never expected. Revelation isolates before it elevates. It sets you apart before it sets you ahead. And part of the cost of spiritual sight is learning how to carry what God shows you, even when no one else understands it. But God does not allow this sensitivity just to isolate you. He uses it to teach you wisdom. Wisdom that protects you from emotional decisions. Wisdom that prevents spiritual entanglements. Wisdom that helps you avoid unnecessary warfare. Wisdom that exposes the enemy's strategies before they unfold. Seeing spiritually is not merely about danger. It is about direction. It is God steering your steps through whispers, unease, impressions, and peace that only the awakened can interpret. This is why your spirit reacts so strongly to certain people. Because God is teaching you that not everyone is meant for access. Not everyone who smiles at you carries good intentions. Not everyone who praises you has pure motives. Not everyone who draws close to you is drawn by love. Some are drawn by the light they hope to drain. And when you sense that, it creates a battle inside you. A battle between what you want to believe and what your spirit already knows. You may meet someone who appears kind, supportive, and harmless, but inside something feels misaligned. You may sense a shadow behind their actions, a weight behind their presence, a tension their words cannot hide. At first, you doubt yourself. You question your own heart, but as time passes, the truth always reveals itself. What you sensed early was God protecting you from what would have harmed you later. Most people learn through consequences. You learn through warning. That is spiritual responsibility. Another aspect of this responsibility is that God will often show you the condition of your own heart. Discernment doesn't only reveal others, it reveals you. It exposes your impatience, your fear, your pride, your wounds, your assumptions, and your emotional triggers. You begin to realize that spiritual sight requires purity, because discernment and trauma can sound the same if you don't heal. God must cleanse your inner lenses so you can discern accurately, not through the distortion of past pain. This inner work is part of the cost, because as God refines your spirit, He confronts things inside you that you avoided. He reveals patterns you repeated unknowingly. He shows you doors that remained open because of old wounds. He exposes attitudes that block spiritual clarity. He corrects the posture of your heart so that the sight He gave you isn't wasted. Seeing spiritually without being spiritually stable leads to confusion. God wants you to see clearly, not fearfully, boldly, not anxiously, accurately, not emotionally, and this purification process takes time. God peels layers off of you, layers of insecurity, defensiveness, mistrust, guilt, bitterness, people-pleasing, overthinking, impulsiveness, and emotional dependency. You begin to see how much of your discernment was clouded by fear, how many of your assumptions were reactions, how many of your decisions were driven by pain instead of purpose. And God begins to free you from those illusions, so that what remains is pure discernment, not emotional projection disguised as spiritual insight. During this season, you might feel misunderstood, even by those closest to you. You might feel like your spirit is on high alert while others are distracted. You might feel like conversations exhaust you because you perceive too much. You might feel like silence becomes necessary because your spirit needs rest. This is not weakness, it is calibration. God is fine-tuning your awareness, adjusting your frequency, sharpening your spiritual vision. But the hard part is that people will not always appreciate the clarity you carry. Some will feel exposed by it. Some will feel intimidated by it. Some will feel uncomfortable around you without knowing why. Discernment makes the spiritually dishonest restless. Not because you are judging them, but because your presence carries truth, even when you say nothing. You begin to notice who hides, who avoids, who withdraws, who changes behavior when you enter the room. And this awareness can feel heavy, but it is necessary, because God must separate you from those who cannot walk where you are going. He must remove those who only like you when you are blind. He must distance you from those who want your company, but not your calling. He must shield you from relationships that honor your personality, but reject your discernment. Because the person who rejects your discernment rejects your destiny. Seeing what others cannot forces you to grow in silence. It teaches you how to stand strong without applause, how to walk away from danger without explanation, how to detach without argument, and how to obey God without clarity. This obedience matures you. It gives you spiritual backbone. It teaches you to choose truth over approval. And this is another cost. Truth is expensive. It costs you people. It costs you comfort. It costs you the illusion of belonging. But here is the hidden blessing. The clearer your discernment becomes, the stronger your inner peace becomes. Because now you don't need the world to confirm what God already revealed. You don't need someone's behavior to validate what your spirit sensed. You don't need proof to trust your warning. You don't need signs to obey. Discernment becomes your guardian. Peace becomes your compass. And obedience becomes your protection. You begin to notice that God uses your sensitivity not only to protect you, but also to protect others. You sense when someone is hurting even when they pretend to be fine. You feel when someone is drifting spiritually, even when they smile. You pick up on burdens others cannot articulate. You feel when someone is under attack. And without knowing how, you begin praying for people before they even know they need prayer. This is intercession birthed from discernment. The cost of this calling is high, but the purpose is higher. Because those who see spiritually become early responders in the kingdom of God. You intercept danger before it unfolds. You stop spiritual attacks before they manifest. You break curses before they spread. You pray people out of traps they didn't know they were stepping into. You stand in the gap without public recognition, and heaven marks your faithfulness even when earth never notices. Another cost of seeing what others cannot is the emotional toll it takes. You feel drained after being around certain individuals. You feel heavy after listening to certain stories. You feel exhausted after being in environments filled with chaos, conflict, or spiritual contamination. Your sensitivity makes you absorb atmospheres. You begin to realize that spiritual warfare expresses itself through emotional fatigue. This is why God teaches you how to guard your spirit. He teaches you boundaries. He teaches you rest. He teaches you silence. He teaches you to withdraw from noise so your discernment does not become distorted by exhaustion. You start craving solitude, not because you are antisocial, but because your spirit needs space to breathe. This is the cost of carrying revelation. Your soul requires quietness. Your mind requires clarity. Your heart requires stillness. This is why Jesus often withdrew to solitary places, because revelation demands restoration. Discernment unplugged becomes discernment unstable. God must teach you to retreat so He can refill you. In this season, you learn to value your peace above all. You no longer apologize for protecting it. You no longer feel guilty for stepping away. You no longer feel the need to explain why your spirit feels unsafe. You no longer compromise your discernment to satisfy someone's expectation. You begin to walk with a new kind of confidence, a confidence rooted not in what you see with your eyes, but in what you see with your spirit. And slowly something transforms inside you. Your discernment stops feeling like a punishment. It becomes a privilege, a holy assignment, a divine partnership. You begin to understand why God made you this way, why certain things break your heart, why certain environments disturb your peace, why certain people drain your energy, why certain warnings won't leave your mind. You are not overthinking, you are spiritually alive. You are beginning to see that God trusted you with perception because He trusted you with purpose. He made you sensitive because He made you strong. He made you discerning because He made you responsible. He made you aware because He made you chosen. This is the cost, and this is the call. As your discernment matures, you begin to understand something that changes everything. Spiritual sight is not just about seeing danger, it is about seeing destiny. Not only the darkness around you, but the light within you. Not only the traps of the enemy, but the fingerprints of God. And one of the greatest costs of seeing what others cannot is realizing that you also see potential others overlook. You see the battle in someone's soul, but you also see the calling God placed inside them. You see their wounds, but you also see their assignment. You see their weakness, but you also see their future strength. And this dual perception, seeing both the shadow and the glory, makes your heart both heavy and hopeful at the same time. People who lack discernment only see what is visible, but you see what is becoming. And this insight often puts you in a strange position. You carry compassion and caution in the same breath. You care deeply for people, but you cannot stay connected when your spirit senses danger. You want to help, but you also know that not every battle is yours to fight. This tension creates a level of emotional maturity that many never reach, because discernment is not only about knowing what to avoid, it is about knowing when to let go. Letting go is one of the hardest aspects of spiritual sight, because seeing someone's potential does not guarantee you are called to stay in their process. You can see greatness in someone, but if their path leads them into darkness, you are not meant to follow, you must release them. You can see healing available for them, but if they refuse to heal, you cannot force transformation. And you begin to understand that discernment separates you not only from danger, but from distraction, from assignments that are not yours, from battles that would drain you, from people who cannot grow with you. This kind of separation is painful but necessary. God will often remove people from your life, not because they are evil, but because they are not aligned with your next level. Their presence would weigh you down. Their unresolved issues would become your spiritual burden. Their instability would disrupt your clarity. And when God is preparing you for higher levels of authority, He cannot allow you to carry anyone who refuses to carry themselves. Discernment may reveal the potential in someone, but purpose determines whether they belong in your journey. Many hearts break because they confuse spiritual compassion with spiritual assignment. You can love someone deeply and still not be called to stay. You can see the best in someone and still not be aligned with them, and God has to teach you the difference. Compassion feels for someone, but calling walks with someone, and the two are not always the same. This realization births another cost, the cost of boundaries. People assume that those with discernment should always be accessible, always available, always emotionally open. But discernment teaches you that access is stewardship. You cannot pour endlessly into people who refuse to grow. You cannot allow your sensitivity to be manipulated by those who enjoy your empathy but reject your discernment. You cannot let people drain your spiritual energy because they love the way your presence calms their chaos. You begin to guard your inner life with seriousness. You become selective with conversations. You choose silence over unnecessary explanations. You protect your rest as if it were sacred, because it is. You step back from people who distract your focus. You no longer allow guilt to govern your availability. And this shift can confuse others. They may think you are distant, cold, or detached. But if they could see what your spirit carries, they would understand that boundaries are not selfish. They are survival. Another cost of seeing the invisible is the warfare that comes with it. Your ability to discern the enemy's strategies makes you a target. The enemy fights hardest against those who expose him. He cannot blind you, so he tries to break you. He cannot deceive you, so he tries to drain you. He cannot stop what God is building in you, so he tries to exhaust you before you get there. This warfare manifests in confusion, heaviness, sudden discouragement, emotional fatigue, spiritual numbness, anxiety, and unexpected conflict. But the reason these attacks feel intense is because the threat you pose is intense. You were not given sight to sit quietly. You were given sight to disrupt darkness. You were given sight to intercede. You were given sight to speak when God commands. You were given sight to shift atmospheres. You were given sight to expose the enemy's schemes. You were given sight to protect your destiny and the destinies of those connected to you. This is why demons recognize your spirit even before people do. This is why you walk into certain places and feel tension rise. This is why people with hidden motives act strangely around you. This is why liars become defensive in your presence. This is why those living in deception feel uncomfortable near you, because your spirit confronts what their darkness tries to hide. You don't need to say a word. Light exposes without speaking. And here is the truth. Discernment is not just a gift, it is warfare. It is a shield. It is a weapon. It is armor. Your spiritual sensitivity makes you aware of attacks before they arrive. Your reactions are often warnings from the Holy Spirit. Your uneasiness is often God's way of saying, "Pray now." And when you obey these impulses, you intercept spiritual damage that others never knew was coming. This calling also brings the cost of self-awareness. You cannot respond emotionally the way others do. You cannot entertain bitterness without feeling your spirit become heavy. You cannot engage in gossip without feeling spiritually contaminated. You cannot lie to yourself about your motives because your own discernment exposes you. God uses your sensitivity to refine your character. The higher your sensitivity, the deeper your accountability. You cannot pretend ignorance because your spirit sees too much. This accountability becomes a quiet teacher. It forces you to confront pride. It confronts impatience. It confronts your tendency to overthink. It confronts your emotional triggers. And through this confrontation, God matures you. You start noticing how your discernment sharpens not only your perception of others, but your perception of yourself. You begin to understand why David prayed, "Search me, O God, and know my heart." Because true discernment begins inward before it ever points outward. Another cost and blessing of seeing spiritually is this: isolation gives way to intimacy. The more God pulls you away from people, the closer He pulls you to Himself. You begin to hear His voice more clearly. You begin to recognize His presence more quickly. You begin to sense His direction more confidently. You become aware of His whispers, His guidance, His nudges, His conviction, His comfort, His correction. And suddenly, the isolation doesn't feel empty anymore. It feels sacred. You start realizing that God isolated you not to punish you, but to reveal Himself to you in ways He couldn't. When your life was crowded, He needed your heart quiet. He needed your mind still. He needed your emotions stabilized. He needed room to speak. And as you grow more comfortable in His presence, your discernment becomes less about fear and more about communion, less about protection and more about partnership, less about alarm and more about alignment. And gradually you begin to see the deeper purpose behind everything He showed you. God never meant for your sensitivity to be a burden. It was always meant to be a bridge into deeper intimacy with Him, a bridge into your assignment, a bridge into maturity, a bridge into spiritual authority, a bridge into a version of yourself you never imagined you could become. Because here is the truth. Those who see what others cannot are called to walk in what others cannot. Your sensitivity is not random. It is preparation. God is preparing you to carry revelation, to carry wisdom, to carry influence, to carry leadership, to carry spiritual weight with grace, to carry peace in chaotic environments, to carry clarity where others carry confusion, to carry light where others carry darkness. And as you embrace this calling, something shifts inside you. The burden becomes beauty. The weight becomes worship. The responsibility becomes reverence. You stop wishing your sensitivity away and begin to thank God for it. You begin to see how many disasters you avoided, how many people you prayed out of destruction, how many traps you escaped, how many tears you spared yourself, how many mistakes God shielded you from. Suddenly, you see the gift behind the cost. And when you finally understand this, you no longer feel out of place. You no longer feel strange. You no longer feel confused about who you are. You realize you are not too sensitive. You are spiritually alive. You are not overthinking. You are hearing the Spirit. You are not paranoid. You are discerning. You are not alone. You are set apart. This is not punishment. This is not accident. This is calling. You are chosen to see what others cannot, and chosen to carry what others cannot, because God trusts you with what others cannot handle. Before we close, if this message spoke to you, comment below and tell us where you're watching from. We love seeing how far this word is reaching. And if this message blessed you, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay with us by choosing one of the videos appearing on your screen now. Let God continue speaking to you. You are not alone. You are guided. You are seen. You are chosen.